All right, so good morning and welcome to Create Joy using Google Classroom, simplifying your digital life. My name is Erin Warren and I am an instructional coach for technology at the Ohio Valley ESC. I have a tiny URL and a QR code to give you access to my slide presentation. There are some links that you can click out of whenever you get to the slides. So if you want to either scan the QR code or write down the tiny URL, that would be great. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and in the chat, I have on our next slide, some housekeeping tips. So first of all, please, if you can, oops, wrong one. Please mute your microphone during the presentation. That way everybody can hear what's going on. If you are attending live, please type your first and last name and where you are from in the chat. I have a Google form for attendance, so you can either scan the QR code or once again, I did put that in the chat for you to get your CEU certificate for participating in today's session. We are doing our spring webinar series for Remote edX, and we are using the same Google Classroom. So if you would like to join our Google Classroom, if you haven't done so already, the join code is ZBIRIJ. And if you use a personal Gmail account, it kind of plays better in the sandbox for Google Classroom. But again, all of our recording sessions from our winter webinar series that we did and all of the ones from the spring are going to be located in this Google Classroom. Also, you want to be sure to just subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's another place that we house all of our video sessions from our virtual webinars. You're always free to contact me. You can email me at erin.warren@ovesc.org for more information to obtain your CEU certificate from today's session. And if you just wanted to ask questions or sign up for one-on-one coaching, you can do that as well. Speaking of one-on-one coaching, if you visit https:/ecoe.sc/techcoach, you can learn all about the Remote edX grant team, and you can schedule an appointment with each of us through our Calendly links. So now that we have our housekeeping tips out of the way, again, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Erin Warren, and I am an instructional coach for technology at Ohio Valley ESC. I have 18 years of classroom teaching experience, but this is my first year in the ESC as an instructional coach. Again, you can email me at erin.warren@ovesc.org, and also my Calendly link is located on the slide as well. So again, I'm so happy that you chose to spend the next 45 minutes to an hour with me today, learning about creating joy in Google Classroom. All right, so just to kind of start things off, kind of get the temperature of the room of where we're at today, just pick a number of how you are feeling today. So looking at our llamas, we have number 1, maybe you're feeling happy today. Number 2, maybe you have some panic within inside you. Number 3, you're pretty secure with where you're at. Number 4, maybe you're angry, who knows? Number 5, confused, or 6, calm. So just in the chat, let's see, we got some numbers coming in. Very good. Excellent. Good job. So I would say for myself, I'm a number 1 because again, I'm happy to be able to share this with you guys today and that you're joining me with this. But I'm going to be honest, I have some number 2 within me as well, just because we're working with technology and you just never know what's going to happen with computers. But you know what? I'm sure it's going to be fine regardless. So thank you for participating with that. And let's just go ahead and dig into where we're starting today. So our agenda for today is we're going to explore Google Classroom. Those of you that maybe are just beginning in Google Classroom, we're just kind of go through the basics of it. Those of you that might be Google Classroom pros, I just ask that you be patient because towards the end, we will have some pro tips and tricks for using Google Classroom. So along the way, we're going to explore it. We're going to discuss ways to bring joy using Google Classroom. And then again, we have the tips and tricks for using it in our classrooms. So I always like to start with the why. Why do we want to use a certain tool in our classroom? So in Google Classroom, students can empower their learning. So Classroom increases the role that the students play in choosing how they learn, and it increases their level of resilience and personal responsibility. So using this tool, they're able to kind of go on into the digital world, but they're doing it in a responsible way. It also allows students to construct new knowledge. Classroom allows students to produce artifacts and make meanings for themselves and others, and they can mature as digital citizens. So again, they can facilitate collaborative activities for students and teachers, and it helps them learn how to work together appropriately and efficiently. So again, that's one of our 21st century goals that we do want to kind of shape those digital citizens for tomorrow, and Classroom does help that. Now, on the flip side, Google Classroom can help teachers encourage citizenship. So again, we're helping inspire students to positively contribute to a digital world. We're designing authentic activities for students. So then it's providing them with the tools that they need to develop learner-driven lessons. And also it's facilitating technology use. So Classroom supports teachers who prioritize 21st century skills and promote learning through technology. So there's a lot of reasons why it is important to use Google Classroom with your students. Now, there are many advantages to using Google Classroom. These are really in no particular order, but again, it's affordable and secure. Google goes through great lengths to try to make it very secure for your students. So they take that seriously, keeping the privacy of your students. That's something that Google is very committed in being. It's also simple and intuitive. When you see the platform itself, it's a relatively simple platform. When you start clicking around, you go right to where you need to go. And again, it's accessible on all devices, which is really great. So iPads, laptops, Chromebooks, mobile phones, cell phones, all of these things Google Classroom is able to be on. So even if maybe they don't have reliable internet service, but they can get a cell phone signal, students are still able to log on to Google Classroom. It's organized, pretty much easy to set up, and we're going to talk about those steps today. And the best part is that it's Google integrated, meaning all the Google apps, so Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, sites can all be easily integrated with just a push of a button. Students are able to use that, and you don't have to like convert things back and forth. Now let's think about the traditional way of teaching. So again, I've done this throughout my career. I sit down on my computer or write something out. I'd create an assignment for the students. If it's on my computer, I would go and print it off. Hopefully I have enough ink to print it. Then it's the march to the dreaded copy machine, and you just cross your fingers and you're like, oh, I hope the copy machine likes me today and it doesn't jam. So let's say the copy machine does like you, you're able to make your copies, thank goodness. We go back to the classroom, we distribute it out to the students, they work on it, but some of them didn't get it done. So you send it home for homework thinking, please bring this document back tomorrow. So they take it home. It may or may not get done, and it may or may not get back to class the next day, but let's be positive and say that it does. So you collect that work again, maybe you do some feedback, you might even put a little grade on it, but that's not the final grade. They can work on it again, you send it back to them, then the cycle just keeps going and going and going. And that's a lot of steps. There's a lot of nervousness that maybe things will work or things won't work within that cycle. But if we think about a paperless classroom, a lot of those steps are being taken out. So again, you can create your lesson digitally on your computer. You push that work out to the students on the computer. The students find the work, they work on it, they send it back to you. Then you can provide feedback, send it back to them, and it just keeps on going back and forth. There's no, my dog ate my homework. There's no, you never give it to me. There's no, I've lost it, because everything is in a digital space. It's all together, which kind of makes a paperless classroom a classroom that you might really want to invest in. Okay, so when we create a Google Classroom, we're going into, we can either use our waffle with our Google Apps, or you can go to classroom.google.com. And whenever you click on that, in order to create a class, you're going to have a little plus sign that's beside the waffle, which is beside your profile picture. When you click on that plus sign, you have two options as a teacher. You can join a class, or you can create a class. So whenever you are making a classroom for yourself, you want to create a class. So when you click on creating a class, that's going to bring you to your Google Classroom homepage. Now, this picture here is just an example of my Google Classroom homepage. I have a class that I created, which is this Google Tips and Tricks, and then I have classes that I'm a part of as well. So being a teacher, you are allowed to join other classrooms and be a part and do assignments with them or whatnot. So if I want to go directly to my class, I just click on the Google Classroom title. I have three dots that is kind of like our menu button. And within those three dots, you can move your tiles around on your home page. You can copy the invite link, you can edit it, you can copy your class, which we'll talk about later, or you can also archive your class. Now, if you are a teacher of your class, if you see this little squiggly line, that takes you directly to your grading system. And then behind this menu here, there's also a little Google folder icon that takes you to the Google folder. And again, we're going to talk about that as well. So again, this is your classroom homepage. You would just click on the class that you want to be working in. So, okay, I opened up my Google Classroom for Google Tips and Tricks, and this is what I see. So working from left to right, we see the three lines, which is our menu. We have our tab section, stream, classwork, people, and grades. Now, if you are enrolled in a class, if you're taking a class, you will not see the grades section, because obviously that's just your grading. And if you're a student, you're not grading anything. If we keep on scrolling across, we have our little gear over here on the right, and that gives us our course settings. And then everything underneath our header is just the content to our stream. Google provides headers that you can choose from, or you can create your own header, which is what I chose to do. We've had some sessions on that previously, so if that's something that interests you, then please either join the Google Classroom or go to our YouTube channel, and you can see how you can create these customized header for your classroom. Okay, so let's talk about the main menu navigation. When we click on our three lines, this is our menu that comes up. So it has the classes. If you click on that, it's going to have all the classes that you're a part of. The Google Classroom calendar, and we'll talk about this in just a minute, but it's basically telling you when things are due. If you are teaching a class, it's going to give you things that you need to review. So if students turned in work, or if you have assignments that are due, it's going to be underneath there. If you are enrolled in any classes, it's going to have what you need to do. Archiving classes is basically you're just kind of hiding them off of your classroom homepage. You're not really deleting them, but you are hiding them. And then the settings, you can change your settings to your classroom as well. Now, the Google Calendar integration, one of the nice things whenever you're using Google Classroom is whenever you create a class and you create an assignment and you put a due date to the assignment, it's going to automatically put it on the calendar. So students are able to see what's coming up. They are able to kind of plan out their lessons. You as the teacher, you can kind of get a sense of when things are going to be going, especially if you're doing projects or things like that. So it's a very handy thing. You can get to the calendar either through the main menu, or you can also get to the calendar. It has it on the Classwork page as well. You can access that at any time. Now, as soon as you create a class in Google Drive, Google will automatically make a Google Classroom folder in your Drive. So you don't want to delete this folder, because if you delete it, bad things happen. So just don't delete it, but it's basically there to try to help you organize things. Within the classroom, you can make different folders. Actually, Google does it itself. Whenever you make an assignment, it makes different folders within your class. And then there's a folder called templates, do not edit. Basically what this does is, if you like something from an assignment that you want to copy to make to another assignment, you could possibly go in there and make a copy of that, but you don't really want to edit anything within that folder, because if students are actually working on an assignment, it kind of messes up what they are doing. So the templates, don't edit it, don't delete it, and don't delete the Google Drive folder for Classroom because you wish that you hadn't done that. So just don't do it. All right, so now let's say that we want to invite students and teachers into our Google Classroom. There's a lot of ways that you can do that. If you scroll over to the People tab, you can invite co-teachers, where underneath teachers, you just go to the little plus person sign, and then that kind of, you put in their information, it sends them an email, and they can join that way. You can do the same things with students as well. If you know your student's email address, you can add students in there, and it sends them an invite email. But I think, in what I used in my classroom, the easiest thing to do is just to show the class code. So project the class code or write that down. The class code is on your main page. It's on the left-hand side. So you can project that up on the screen, and then the students can just use that code and get into your classroom as well. Now the tabs is kind of, everything has a home and a dedicated place, and the tabs, you can work from there of where you need to go to certain places. So for example, the first tab that we come to is the stream. I like to think of the stream as my announcement page. So you can set up reminders, you can set up announcements, classroom discussions. This isn't a place that you're going to put any work. This isn't a place where you assign work. It's just like, hey, remember, library books are due at the end of the month, or next week is Spirit Week. Don't forget to dress up. That's kind of what you put in your stream, just like your daily announcements. The Classwork page is probably where you're going to be doing most of your work, because that's where you're posting your materials, your assignments, and your assessments. So a lot of your work is going to be done in the Classwork page. The People's tab, again, that's where you can go to invite co-teachers, invite students. You can even invite parents into your classroom so that they can kind of see what's going on. Guardian summaries, you can send those to your parents so they can kind of keep up with their student. And then the Grades tab, that's just what you're doing. You're looking at any missing or late work. You're actually grading work on the Grades tabs, and you can see who has turned in work and who hasn't. Okay, so how are we going to spark joy using Google Classroom? That's kind of what we're looking at today. And again, we want to think that we're imagining a paperless classroom. So what is that going to look like to you? Well, you want to commit to be organized, because if you're not organized, then that could just make it more hassle than it is not. So commit to be organized. Imagine what your paperless classroom would look like. And this is really an opportunity that you can kind of go through and discard old or outdated material. When you're putting things into your classroom, when you're making your lessons digital, things that you don't like or things that didn't work, you don't have to add in there. So you can tidy up by unit, you can tidy up by concept, by standard. Again, you're the captain of your own ship. You can figure out what you like or what you don't like, but basically you just want to follow a system that works for you. There's no right or wrong way to using Google Classroom. There's no right or wrong way of setting it up. So whatever works best for you and your students so then they can learn, that's the way that you need to go. And again, just kind of be in the moment of letting technology bring you joy, you know, speeding up processes of things, of how to create things or how to grade things. That type of thing can really make it to where it's not as so much as a hassle. Okay, so how can we spark joy with the stream? Well, create posts that bring you joy. So again, in the stream, this is kind of like your announcements page. So highlight important announcements or dates. Maybe tell them, hey, you remember test is on Friday, or your project is due next Tuesday. Those are the types of things that you can put on there. You can outline your daily agenda on your stream. Post inspirational messages. It doesn't just have to be typing that you're putting on there. You can add YouTube videos or screencastify videos of yourself. You can just put pictures or images and have the students look at them. Again, this is just kind of creating the community within your classroom and kind of getting kids excited to be in there. So whenever you want to create a post, you're just going to click on creating a post. You can pick what class you want to go to or which class. You can do it for multiple classes if you like. You can pick what students you want to receive this message. Maybe you have students that's missing work and you need to remind them of that. Basically, you just type in whatever it is you need to type. Down here at the bottom, you can add attachments. So things from your Google Drive, you can upload things from your computer, you can link websites or different things that have links, and you can pull in YouTube videos as well. And you can schedule a post. Now, one of the good things about Google is that it can make lesson planning. If you like to do that ahead, you can schedule things ahead. It doesn't have to be pushed out right then. So let's say on Sunday night, you're trying to figure out your week. You can do each morning, put out your message of what you want to say, and then you just schedule it. Pick your date and time of when you want it, and it will show up. You can also do things right when you need to do them. So like if you're in the middle of class and you need to post something, the students, they will get that. There's really no lag time between posting things and when students get it, depending on when you schedule for that. All right, so now we're in Classwork. The Classwork tab, again, this is where the bulk of your work is going to be at, is in Classwork. So when we go to the Create button on our Classwork page, we see this menu here. We have assignment, quiz assignment, question, material, reuse post, or topic. If we click on the assignment, this is mostly probably what you're going to be using. It's the bread and butter of Google Classroom. So you can create, share, collect, and grade student work from this assignment page. So when I click on the assignment, I can put the title of my assignment. I can write down any instructions that I might have. I can attach any additional files, things again from my drive, from my computer, links. I can do YouTube videos, and I can even create blank doc slide sheets, drawings, and forms. So maybe if you're working on something that you want them to collaborate on, you can just attach a blank doc and they can kind of go from there. If it's something that you made that you want them to write certain things on, then again, you would probably upload that from your drive. When you are ready to assign, you got what you want them to do, you can again pick multiple classes, pick what class you want it to go to. You can pick what students you want it to go to. Google Classroom is a very nice platform that allows for differentiation. You can have students working ahead. You can have students that are trying to get caught up. They would be none the wiser. You're just posting what they need to know. You can select the point value for your assignment. The due date, again, I would recommend to put a due date on there because that does put it in your Google Calendar, and that can help students kind of schedule out and plan what needs to be done. The topics is your organizational, and we're going to talk about those in just a minute, but that's basically where you're going to put your assignments to organize your classroom. You can attach a rubric. You can create a rubric from Google Classroom that can kind of, the students can see how they're being graded on certain things. And of course, it also has the check plagiarism. You can, when you hit assign, you can again schedule it, you can save it as a draft, or you can delete it if you need to. So again, probably the most of the things that you're going to be doing are assignments in Google Classroom. Now, another thing to mention is that it doesn't have to be a digital assignment. You can post paper pencil assignments in Google Classroom. If it's something that you want the students to create, or it's something that they're going to be writing out, you can still put the assignment in Google Classroom, but maybe they're just handing in a physical copy. And again, that's totally fine as well. Now, whenever you do go to assign something that maybe you attached a Google document to it, you can select how that you want to share it. So there are three options. The students all view the same single file. That would be good if you had like a reading passage or formula sheets, references, things like that, because they're not going to be able to manipulate that in any way. They're basically just viewing it. Students all view and can edit the same single file. Again, you can kind of use this with caution. Maybe if you do want them to collaborate all together, or if it's a group project or whole class activities, then yes, but just realize that when they can edit, they can move things around. They can change people's slides, and there might be some conversations that you might have to have with students. So again, use it with caution. You know your students best, but when you are clicking the share settings, that is an option that you can do. Now, the ones that I usually did for my students, because I know what they were like, is I just made a copy for each student. That way they can edit their own. You don't have to worry about them getting into somebody else's slide or doing something wrong or things like that. Again, that's great for individual assignments or worksheets or essays, things like that. So again, when you're making your assignments, those are the share settings, and it will pop up and ask you, how do you want to share this document with your students? Okay, so after the assignment button, we have the quiz assignment. So the fun thing about the quiz assignment is that you can actually create a Google form quiz that you can grade it, have it graded itself, and then yay, less work for you. So when you click on the quiz assignment, again, you can create a blank Google form quiz. When you click on that, you can go in and type whatever Google form quiz that you want it to be. Or if you already have one, again, you can attach it with Google Drive. If you are tracking your grades with Google Classroom, you can kind of toggle the grades between the Google form quiz to Google Classroom. Again, that just saves you the step. So you would just put a title of your quiz, give them instructions. They would have the quiz there. You can pick who gets it, how many points, when it's due, if it's under a topic. And again, you can assign it, schedule it, draft it, or delete it as well. Now, a question can be asked in Google Classroom as well. And again, you can maybe schedule these questions out, or in the middle of teaching, if you decide, hey, you know what, I need to see where people are at in this lesson, you can automatically push out a question to students. So you can choose between multiple choice or short answer questions. So when you click on the question button, you can type your question, and you decide if you want short answer question, where they would have to type out the response, or they can do multiple choice, and then they can pick the response that they want. So again, you just pose your question. Maybe if you have things that you want them to watch or things that you already have uploaded, you can do that as well. And then you can ask the student the question, and you can schedule that out as well. Put it a due date if you need it, who it's for. Maybe you only want to ask certain students certain questions, because whenever you click on that drop down arrow, it's going to list all the students that's in your class. So if you want them all to have it, everybody, if you want certain students, you can touch that as well. Now, the material section in Google Classroom, I like to think of this as all the resources that you have. So things that the students are going to go back to again and again, that they kind of refer to most often. That might be your syllabus, that might be periodic tables or reference sheets, PDFs, things like that. So whenever you create a material, again, you're just going to click on the create. You can give it a title. You can say what it is. If you have things to upload, maybe it's a Google Doc of your syllabus, you can just attach those, and then you can post it out for your students as well. So materials isn't an assignment, it's just things that students can go back to and reference. Now, let's say you have the most wonderful lesson ever and you want to reuse it in either another later in the year, or maybe for another classroom. You can reuse post. So whenever you click on the create, the reuse post, it brings up you know, what classes do you want this post to go to? Which assignment do you want? Then when you click on the one that you want, you just edit the details, change the due date, maybe change the title if you need any, and then you can click post, and you just kind of saves you a couple clicks with doing that. Now, topics, this is the organizational feature in Google Classroom. So again, whenever you're thinking about topics, you're thinking about how do you want your classroom to be organized. So whenever you make a topic, I've seen teachers make topics by week. So the week of March 21st through the 25th, and then all the lessons for the week would be underneath there. I've seen other teachers use it by unit. Unit 5 landforms and all the assignments underneath there. Teachers use it by subject. If you're in the elementary grades and you just have the one Google Classroom, you might have reading with all the assignments, and then you would have math with all the assignments, social studies with all the assignments. So again, the topics is just how are you organizing your lessons for students to be able to find. Some other topic options could be by learning standards, from DOK levels, maybe by concepts or subjects, sections or class periods, textbook chapters, maybe you want learning groups. Again, it's just whatever helps you stay organized and whatever works. But you know what? If it doesn't work, then just stop doing it. Pick something else that works. Don't get frustrated and overwhelmed, because then you're not going to want to use the platform. But if something doesn't work, just stop and say, okay, kids, we're going to change. You're going to see this week's assignments is now listed, whatever. Okay, just don't get frustrated. Whatever brings you joy, whatever makes you happy, that's my recommendation to please do it. So again, you can create topics from the Classwork page. You can create it while you're working on it. You can just start making a new topic. You would just add it, write in your title of what you want it to be, and then click add. Now, your topics, you can move them around on your Classwork page. You can do that in many ways. You can go to these 3 dots and then click on that move button, and it will move it up and down. You can pick move up or down. You can just click on it and drag it where you want to be as well. So again, if you see a topic and you're like, hey, that needs to be at the top, just pull it up there and move it. That's totally fine. Okay, so now when we're managing our Classwork page, we're seeing who's done the assignment. So when we click on an assignment under our Classwork page, we see here, this is my topic, my hero's journey is my topic. We see our assignments. When I click on the Forge a Hero HyperDoc assignment, I can see who's turned it in. I can see how many people it's assigned to, and I can see how many people I've graded on. You can also see that I had a rubric with this assignment, and then you can see the Google Doc that the students are going to be clicking on. So if you want to open that up, then you would actually click on View Assignment, and it's going to take you to this Google Doc, and you can work on it as a student. So again, whenever you're grading things, if you see anything in red, it means that you're missing work. Anything in green means that it's turned in or it's in a draft, and anything that's black, you've returned it back to the students. So whenever you're going through your gradebooks tab and you're seeing those different colors, that's kind of what that means. So when you are grading, so we're kind of going into the grade and returning an assignment, you can grade from the student's work page. You can do grades from the grading tool, and you can do grades from the grading page. So again, when I click on my topic and I see my assignments and I click on the view assignment, it's going to show me, you know, which students or how many turned it in, how many it was assigned to, if I graded any, or if I need to get busy on my grading. So then again, I'm going to click on view assignment because I want to start the actual grading process of this work. So whenever I click on the Classwork page, I'm going to click on view the assignment. This gives me the title of the assignment, and it has all my students that's turned it in. If I click on the individual student, it's going to take me to that page, and then I can just start grading right off that. And I have a picture here, and just then I think it's the next slide of how you can do that. Again, you can see who's turned in, you can see how much it's worth. And then using a rubric with that. But before we kind of get into the actual grading, there's different types of communication that you can have with students. Private comments versus class comments. So private comments are just that. They're private between the student and the teacher. This allows you to have conversations with your students and other people aren't really chiming in. Class comments, if you enable them, everybody can kind of participate in the discussions and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. Now, students are students, kids are kids. They can get kind of squirrely and they can get kind of unruly. So if you notice that you're having problems in the commenting, maybe inappropriate comments or just kind of doing silly things, you can mute or delete that student from the conversation. As a teacher, you have that option to do that. You can also email students. Every time that you have an assignment or an announcement or a question, a student will get an email saying, hey, Mrs. Warren posted whatever in her Google Classroom. Whenever a student turns in work or has a question or anything within students, you get an email back from that. So again, there's a lot of different types of communication that you can have with different students. So providing feedback is very important with your students. And Google Classroom will allow you to either give like numerical feedback or you can give personalized feedback. So whenever I clicked on this person's assignment, I can add a comment. I can go through the rubric and grade whatever needs to be graded, and then add up any comments that I need or whatever. And then when I hit return, it goes back to the students. Now you can return work without a grade. Maybe if you want them to fix something, you can return it back to students and then they would just have to resubmit it to you and then you can grade it. So that's not a problem either. So let's say that you have a lot of students and you keep on saying the same things over and over again. You can create a comment bank. So whenever you go to that document, you can click on add to bank, then type in whatever comment you want and save it. And the good thing about Google is it's saved to your Google account. So whatever device you are on, you can pull up your comment bank and then put them on for students. And then you would just click add of what comments you need. Now, another thing that you can do to spark joy is depending on your preference of getting emails. Some people like to get every email regardless of what it is, and other people don't want to get any emails. Again, it's totally up to you. So if you go to settings and you go to notifications, you can click what type of emails you want. You can toggle these little blue buttons on and off. So maybe you just want all email notifications, you get everything. Or you can kind of go through and you can pick which emails you want from students. If you have a lot of students, you might be getting a lot of emails because again, whenever they turn something in, you're getting an email saying that. So maybe that isn't something that you want, but if somebody comments or asks a question to you, you do want those emails so you can see what's going on. Again, this is your personal preference, so whatever works for you, but there are ways that you can kind of lessen your email load. Now, when we're talking about comments and students commenting, you can have the students post and comments on the stream. You can have that they can only comment, or you can say that the teacher can only post or comment. So again, there's pros and cons to each one. If the students can post and comment, this allows for maximum collaboration. It's enabling the students to kind of dictate of how the culture of the class. But again, students, kids are kids, and they can say silly things or inappropriate things or post things that aren't even true. And then you are down a rabbit hole of crazy. So again, you know your students and you know what they can handle. If students can only comment, they're commenting on things, which does allow for some collaboration. They're not able to post material or anything like that, but they're commenting on other people's responses. But again, they can be inappropriate with that. They can abuse the commenting feature, and it basically floods the stream with nothing of silliness. When I was teaching and we first started this, I allowed the students to comment, and it was just to be funny, some kid kept on doing J, 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 J. And then it would just be post after post of that. And no, you're in high school, don't do that. But again, that's conversations that you have to have with your students. So what I did is after that happened, I was the only one that could post or comment. I knew my students, I knew what they could handle, what they couldn't handle. So again, the teacher's the only one posting and commenting. It again prevents inappropriate and misuse of comments, but you're also taking that collaboration away and taking away kind of them maturing as digital citizens. But again, it's totally up to you. You do what you feel is best for your students and for yourself, and hopefully they won't do that. All right, so let's say it's the end of the year, and of course we are, it's March, we're getting towards the end of the year, and we want to archive our class. So when we're totally done with our class and we're ready to archive it, we can go to our class homepage, we can click on the 3 dots and we can click archive. We can also do this from our main menu settings as well. So when you're archiving, you're basically just kind of hiding this classroom, but you're not deleting it. You're just kind of putting it away. It will still be in your Google Drive folder. It will just be under the archive section of the folder. And the pop-up warning is going to appear and they say, do you really want to do this? And you're like, yes, I do. So you can do that. If you do it by accident, it's no big deal because you can restore it. So when you go to the main menu, you go to archive, you click find the class that you want, and then you can click restore. If you know that you're never going to use this class again, like nope, never, you need to archive it first and then you can delete it. And then once you delete it, it's gone for good. You can't get it back. So maybe just archiving your classes might be something that you want to do. But again, if you know that you're really not going to use it, then deleting it is permanent. Now, like I said, I've integrated a lot of these things with ease. All of these websites that I have are linked on my slideshow. So News ELA, Pear Deck, Brain Pop, Common Lit, Quizlet, Edulastic, Khan Academy, ReadWorks, they all sync very well with Google Classroom. So again, there's many out there. These are just ones that I know that I've used personally, but again, there's a lot more out there. So before we continue on with some pro tips or tricks, are there any questions or anything from anybody? And that's okay if there isn't. Okay, this next section, we are going to get into some tips and tricks for using Google Classroom. If there's some that I haven't mentioned, and again, I'm sure there's lots out there, feel free to put them in the chat or email me later if you're watching this on the recording. So the first one is to number your assignments. This helps you organize your files and it keeps your Google Drive neat and tidy. So for example, my Hero Journey Hyperdoc, I could number that #022. If you have a student that's kind of behind in their work or they're missing work, you can say, hey, go to number 22 and find that. That kind of helps students and parents find lessons that maybe they can't find, because it does stack up pretty quick and it does kind of get hard, but if you put a number to it, it makes it a little bit easier. Speaking of finding things to make it easier, some keyboard shortcuts. If you use Control F or Command F, you can find numbers or words within your classroom. So if you're like, oh, what is that assignment? I forget what it's called, but I know we were talking about polynomials. If you use that, it's going to pull up a list of documents that you could be using. So that's just a keyboard shortcut you can use. Pick an organizational strategy for using topics. Again, pick one that works for you. You can do it by week, by unit, by standard, by grade level, by subject. Again, the main thing is just don't be frustrated with it. If something doesn't work, then just move on. Create a resource topic. So like your class rules, links that you use every day, your syllabus, maybe like your welcome video or how to do things. Put that underneath the resource topics and keep that at the top of your classwork page. Again, that's kind of like your materials. You can call them materials, you can call them resources, but that's just where students know, hey, this is where I go if I need to find, when things are due or whatever, or login information of how to get on certain sites. That would be a good idea to have in your resource topic as well. Okay, you can create Google Classroom templates. Let's say you make the classroom of your dreams. It's organized exactly as you want it. And you're like, this is it. I don't want to have to fool with making a new one every single year. You can actually make a copy of your class and call it a template. So then every time that you're creating the class, you just make a copy of it, and then you can change things that you need. Now, items that will copy are the title, the section, a description, the course subjects, topics, classwork, and grading system. Those things will copy. Now, they will all be in draft mode, which means when you click on them, you can edit them to make the dates or make any changes that you need. But things that will not copy are teacher announcements, deleted classwork items, students and co-teachers, student posts, attachments that you do not have permission to copy, and Google Site files. Those won't copy over. So you're not going to see who was in your class. You're not going to see announcements and things that you posted. None of that stuff's going to copy, but your main work page, that will be there. And again, you can edit it and make it how you like it as well. Okay, use direct links to assignments. So whenever you click on your assignment, you can click on the 3 dots, copy the link, and then share that however it needs to be shared. So it kind of takes some clicking out of there. If you need to email a student, hey, you are missing this, and you copy that link and put it in the email, it takes them right to that assignment. Use a Google Doc, has a syllabus. Anytime that you use Google and you type something in there, it's auto-saved. So if you use a Google Doc for your syllabus, it can be updated. So if you are changing things within your syllabus, again, that's going to be automatic updates that students can see. You can break bigger projects into smaller projects. I know projects can be overwhelming for students and teachers. So if you separate them out with separate due dates, it's easier for you, the teacher, to grade the certain project. You can provide feedback throughout the process, and also the students aren't overwhelmed trying to get everything done all at once. You can create separate Google Classrooms for enrichment or extension activities. If you have a student that it gets done early, you can send them to a Google Classroom and you can have enrichment things. You can have gamification things. You can just have places that they can go that they're still learning occurring. Or you can also have remedial activities. You can have more videos, more practice problems, things like that they can go to work on. Maybe you can create digital badges or have the students create digital badges for any work that they completed within these classrooms. But again, that just gives them somewhere to go. They're still learning occurring, and you're not worried about them being mischievous. Use private comments for reflection. So within your description, you might have the students have to post to you in a private comment their reflection. How did the assignment go? What did they like? What didn't they like? Just add that to your directions. Then you can kind of build a conversation with that student that is requiring them to really think about their learning. Now, I wouldn't say do that for every single assignment, but if you're having a project, or if you're having an essay or something that you really want them to think about, then yeah, that would be a good idea to use as well. So again, you're streamlining that communication with your students, and it's not just at the end, because let's be real, if you put feedback at the end of a project, they're probably not going to look at it. So if you break it up into smaller chunks, you provide the feedback throughout, they might take more time to looking at what you're saying instead of just, it's over, let's move on. If you have a teacher that's hesitant to use Google Classroom, you can invite them into your class, either as a student, so they can kind of see the student side of things, or you can invite them as a co-teacher. Just be leery that co-teachers, or not leery, but just be warned that co-teachers can do anything that you do. So if you have a co-teacher in the class, they can make assignments, they can delete things, they can attach things. But again, if somebody is a little hesitant of using Google Classroom, of course, invite them in. Use more video of yourself. So Screencastify, Loom, anything that you use to record yourselves, put that in your Google Classroom. So you can have instruction videos. So whenever the students get home or they're working from home and they're like, what is she talking about? You can go back and they can watch those videos of you teaching. You can do a weekly overview. What is going to be going on this week? Or what do we do this week? And you can post those as well. Just kind of gives you more into the classroom. People, they can see your face, they can hear your voice, they can go back to you if they have any questions. Now, a lot of hot topics this year about Google Classroom is to creating a new class for each grading period. Now, if your school doesn't, or if your school allows students to make up work, even if it's outside of a grading period, then I wouldn't do this. But if they're like, no, the 9 weeks is over, the work needs to be done, then yes, making a new Google Classroom for each grading period could help, because that kind of prevents students from submitting old assignments in. It reduces the clutter of your Google Classroom and kind of speeds up the load time. You could just archive those old classes, and then next year, first 9 weeks, you can make a copy of those and go from there. But again, if your school's like, no, they can still work on things, then that won't work. If you're using the mobile app, you can actually annotate and draw. So when you click on the assignment, there's a little pencil that you can click on, and you can write right on top of the student work directly. Speaking of the mobile app, it also has a randomized selector. That's on the top right-hand corner as well. So you can call on students or you can group students. So that could be a bonus of using your mobile app. And again, we've talked about this throughout, but differentiating assignments. So again, you can pick which group of students, which student gets what assignment to. You can either give enrichment, you can give remedial help, any of that, you can figure it out with Google Classroom. Now, the last two slides are just something whenever you're doing a digital assignment of something to think about. So you might want to give your assignment a number in your title. That can just make it easier to find. Include detailed directions. The more details you add to the directions, the better it's going to be. So then again, if you're not there, the students can know what they're supposed to do. You could include student-friendly learning goals of why we're doing what we are doing. Explain how it will be assessed and include a rubric. Again, you can create a rubric within Google Classroom. Include a due date and time. That puts it on the calendar, and they can kind of schedule from there. Include collaboration guidelines. How do we work together? Explain the turn-in process. How are they going to turn in this assignment? Explain what to work on if they finish early, or maybe go to that other Google Classroom that you have. And include all attachments and links. So make sure you have everything attached to the assignment that you want them to do, and then that way they are not confused. So again, if you miss the attendance form, I have it linked to the, I'm going to put that in the chat again for today's attendance, or you could do the QR code as well. And I just want to say thank you very much for joining me today. If you have any questions, again, I am happy to answer them. The Remote edX grant team are members of area ESCs that have joined together to provide free instructional technology coaching to teachers this year. We all have Calendly links that you can click on to schedule a time with any of us. You can go to our Google Classroom to view past sessions, or our YouTube channel as well. So again, I'm so happy that you chose to spend a little bit of time with me, and I will open it up if anybody has any questions.